Everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Issa Mark Schulman, and I'm this year's managing editor for Hayden's Ferry Review. And I'm so glad that you all could join us in celebrating the release of issue 76 of HFR. I'm incredibly proud of and thankful for all of the work that our genre editors, associate editors, and interns have done to make this issue and event possible, and who have dedicated so much of their time and care to this journal and its contributors. And it's been an honor to work with all of you. So it's my pleasure to announce that tonight we're joined by four of the issue's contributors, Amina Kayani, Kaveh Bassiri, Joshua Nguyen, and Danielle Frandina, who will be reading their amazing work for you tonight. Before we get started, we wanted to acknowledge the 22 Native nations that have inhabited this land for centuries. Arizona State University's four campuses are located in the Salt River Valley on ancestral territories of indigenous peoples, including the Acamel Odom and Peepash Indian communities, whose care and keeping of these lands allow us to be here today. We know that a land acknowledgement without action is not sufficient and are making efforts toward equitable practices with our free submissions for underrepresented writers. Okay, last thing before we get started, I'd like to take a note of a few items. Firstly, transcription is enabled for accessibility. Please use the chat as a space to celebrate what you hear. Feel free to share any moving lines, reflect on the conversation, spam, I don't know, emotes, whatever moves you, whatever you're feeling. And throughout the event, our editor-in-chief, Susan Nguyen, and one of our associate editors, Jade, will be keeping an eye on the chat, so behave yourselves. And finally, before I introduce our first reader, I'd like to remind folks that we will be opening for our next reading period in mid-June, and we'd love to see y'all's work there as well. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to welcome our incoming fiction editor, Kiara, who will be introducing our first reader for the night. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I am very excited to introduce Amina Kayani. Amina Kayani is a queer Muhajir writer, editor, teacher, and ghost seer from unceded Cherokee and Muscogee land. She has received fellowships from Lambda Literary, Aspen Summer Words, that was an Aspen Summer Words Fellow in Fiction, and Hedgebrook. And she has served as an editor at the Art Institute of Chicago, Sycamore Review, and Cajal. Her writing has appeared in the Kenyon Review, the Florida Review, Joyland, and elsewhere. She lives in Chicago with her spouse and other queers. Amina Kayani's Wings is a delicate yet lush story, an exploration of mothers, daughters, and grief. Backlit with mythology, Kayani introduces the jinn to expound upon a fractured relationship and to interrogate the fine line between realism and belief. I was immediately drawn to this narrative when I came upon it in the submission queue, and I'm thrilled to hear her read from it today. Please welcome Amina Kayani.
Sure, thank you for your kind words and such a lovely introduction. I'm really grateful to be here with everyone tonight, especially the staff of Hayden's Ferry Review for the really important work that y'all do to put together a beautiful magazine. The art is incredible, and the organization of all of these really wonderful pieces is so moving. And to my co-readers, who I'm really excited to hear from. The story is called Wings. I'm just gonna read from the beginning. Wings. It's hardly a question. With her remnants packed in boxes I've forgotten to label. Of course I loved my mother. She peeled apples in a single stroke and let the peels evaporate till they curled into ribbons. She braided her knee-length hair every morning and wrapped it into an impossibly small bun. She would never cut it because when she was 8, her mother shaved it off. Once a year, the day before her birthday, she drank an entire bottle of Bailey's Irish cream and said it was in solidarity with the Irish who opposed the Raj. She liked that this meant she'd have a reason to be miserable on her birthday. When she held me in her wings, her feathers tickling the bones on my back. The last time she came to Chicago, she didn't visit my home. I met her for lunch at the conference center where she gave a talk on spirit possession in Punjab, a topic to which she dedicated her life. No one showed up to her talk. Only myself and a long man in a black coat who sat in the back and walked out towards the middle. My mother stopped speaking when he left, halting mid-sentence to sigh. Every feather on her back sagged. I'd already lost track of what she was saying. I put away the game I had pulled up on my phone. As we walked out, she told me, bitterness steeping her low voice, that her talk was scheduled at the same time as a discussion of oracular trees in the subcontinent, which were being increasingly lost to development. Despite the scholars' insistence in the title of their talk that there was no hope, the inevitable doom of oracular trees was quite popular. It helped that the scholars advertised a djinn on display as part of the lecture. They found the djinn in one of the lost trees, its horns broken, its fur packed with dirt, and one must assume they found a way to bring it here on a plane. They claimed it was an oracle itself. Only one man was mauled, trying to put it in the cargo hold of the plane. Over a sandwich lunch in the hotel restaurant, my mother told me directly, the university is pushing me out. I found an Art Deco motif on the walls to focus on. They want to shut down the department. They haven't hired anyone in a decade. The dean told me 2 weeks ago that they have a retirement incentive to offer. She coughed. There were golden diamonds paneling the golden walls. When she spoke again, she said what she said firmly. You're my only daughter, Koser. It's time to come home with me. It's common among birds for a mother to push her young out of the nest when it is time for them to fly. What happens to a wingless child? When I said nothing and looked towards my napkin, she said, her voice softening, her eyes moving away from me, I need you now, more than ever. I knew better than to trust her soft voice. I tried to maintain my boundaries. When we'd sat down, I ordered 6 beverages at once. Can I get and then also the waiter kindly made no face. Now I arranged each cup in a glass wall between my mother and me. My mother frowned at the boundary as I erected it. When I said nothing, then to her statement of need, she said, Koser, listen. And when I couldn't take my eyes off of the beveled glass wall I'd made, how it mirrored the conference center, she said, Koser, warning me. And then she blew the glasses off the table, her great wings beating the air. My pari Ammi, whose wings are never out. Neither of us made a motion to clean up the mess. The water with the ice and the water without ice and the lemonade and the orange juice and the tea and the coffee steamed as they dripped into one another, the way hot things and cold things steam when they drip into one another. Around us, tables animated with the search for splash stains, and immediately the waiter quickened toward us to begin cleaning, throwing rag after rag onto the new puddle to mask the orange smell rising from the coffee. He apologized, as though he had done the destructive work. A rogue feather, blue as the lake, drifted towards the tiled floor, and my mother sat wordlessly, angled away from the table, looking anywhere but at me. I think about my own winglessness. The last Bari to have a child with a man bore a powerful queen who worshipped the sun. I told my mother, my voice hushed, that I couldn't take care of her. I've never seen my mother break, and I never got the chance. The djinn escaped from the oracular tree conference. When it ran into the restaurant, it stopped to pant smoke by our table. The waiter paused his cleaning, and the other guests left mutterings about women who make scenes unsaid. My mother asked it, and where are you going? The djinn didn't answer her, but it looked at her with bright and flaming eyes, holding her gaze as it rested there, a stone in its palm. When she rose from the table, its unfinished conversation, its untidied mess, I rose unsteadily with her, placing a $20 bill on the wet table. And we left. My mother and the djinn in the elevator to her room, and me in my car, which I would drive home. There was no goodbye exchanged, but when I looked back, I saw her guiding the djinn by its small blue back. I didn't see her again for a year. I think I'll just stop there. Thank you all so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Valeria. I'm going to be introducing another one
of our wonderful readers. So Kaveh Bassiri is an Iranian-American writer and translator. He's the author of 99 Names of Exile, winner of the Anzadullah Dul Poetry Prize and Elementary English winner of the Rick Campbell Chapbook Prize. His translations have appeared or are forthcoming in the American Poetry Review, Kenyon Review, Chicago Review, Virginia Quarterly Review, Denver Quarterly, Colorado Review, and Guernica. Bassiri was the recipient of the 2022-2023 Tulsa Artist Fellowship, a 2021 Arkansas Art Council Fellowship, and a 2019 Translation Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. The translation team selected Kaveh's translation of Nima Yushij's poem Rira. We were captivated by how the verses come together rhythmically and seamlessly to create movement and atmosphere that brings Nima's words to life. Without further ado, Kaveh Bassiri.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Susan, Isa, and Hayden Ferry's team for asking me to be part of this launch. I'm very happy to be reading with Daniela, Joshua, and Amina. I'll be reading translations of poems by Iranian poet Nima Yushij, known simply as Yushij. Nima is considered the father of the modern Persian poetry, arguably the most influential Iranian poet of the 20th century. His writing is the subject of numerous books in Persian and has been set to classical music, although a number of books have been written about him and his work in English. There is no book of translations of his poetry published in America. Nima was born in a small village, Yush in Mazandaran, north of Iran, and throughout his life, he continued to feel very close attachment to his hometown and his landscape. And we get references to this in his poetry, incorporating names and places and things from his hometown, and even writing in Tabari, which is a Mazandarani dialect, kind of endangered language. The poem Rira that was included in the Hayden Ferry has itself had an interesting story. It has been written a lot about, and many people talk about this ambiguity of the title and the subject. Some praise the poem's rejection of closure. Others talk about this political angle, that it's as a voice of people that are fighting in night and ruin, referring to the condition after 1953 coup when the poem was written. Yet other ones talk about it as a personal thing, referring to inevitable death, the dark unconscious, or the spirit of Nima's lost anima as a psychological reading. The word Rira in Mazandarani language actually itself has many meanings. One of them is the warning phrase such as beware. Another one that commonly also talked about is a female figure in ancient folklore that is supposed to be responsible for the beauty of the Mazandaran forest. A type of rain, a small bird. You get the idea. It ends up to be a source of a lot of analysis and arguments about what it means. I have not translated the word Rira and Kach, another word that is used, Mazandarani words, because these words wouldn't be familiar with the Persian when they read it either. Kach means the patch of forests within a rice paddy in the local Mazandarani. But before I read, I want you to hear it in Persian. So I asked my wife Kimia to read this poem first in Persian, so you can get the sense of the sound of the language.
Hi everyone. ریرا ریرا صدا می آید امشب از پشت کاج که بند آب برق سیاه تابش تصویری از خراب در چشم می کشاند. گویا کسی است که می خواند. اما صدای آدمی این نیست. با نظم هوشربایی من آوازهای آدمیان را شنیدم در گردش شبانی سنگین. زندوهای من سنگین تر و آوازهای آدمیان را یکسر من دارم از بر. یک شب درون قایق دلتنگ خواندند آنچنان که من هنوز هیبت دریا را در خواب می‌بینم. ریرا ریرا دارد هوا که بخواند در این شب سیاه. او نیست با خودش، او رفته با صدایش، اما خواندن نمیتواند.
Thanks. Rira, The sound arrives this evening from behind the Kutch field, where the glimmer of off the levee's dark waters paints a picture of rooms. It sounds like someone singing, but this is no human voice. I've heard human songs with enchanting verses in the heavy wandering of the night, heavier than my heartache. I know by heart the songs of men. One night inside the boat, they sang with such longing that I can still see in my dreams the terror of the sea. Rira, Rira, wants to sing in this black night. She isn't with herself. She left with her voice, but cannot sing. The next poem I would read it is called Night Is, Has Shab. Nemo's poetry has a rich symbolic layer that speaks of personal, political, and poetic struggles. Nemo has championed the use of concrete objects and images to give flesh and blood to subjective states and social plights. Reza Barahani, an important Iranian and poet and critic, compared Nina's use of symbols with Mallarmé and argued that while Mallarmé's poems are hermetic and avoid the real world, Nima's poetry turns private and personal symbols into political ones and public ones. The next poem on this Has Shab Night is an example of such a poem, where the humid night in the Mazandaran speaks of the repressive environment and the social oppression within the peoples, with the people who cannot find their way. The poem was set to music by Muhammad Reza Shajarian, a leading Persian traditional singer and composer, and the translation was first published a while back by Two Lines. Night, a humid night where the face of the land has lost its color. Wind, the descendant of clouds, gallops down the mountainsides toward me. Night, like a bloated body, warm in the standing air. From here, a lost man can't see his way. The warm body of the desert extends like a corpse tight in its grave, like the charred heart in my tired body, burning feverishly. There is night. Yes, night. Nima's sole brother, Lord Bon, belonged to a leftist political organization and had to flee Iran to Caucasus, then part of the Soviet Union. Nima said his final goodbye or farewell to his young brother by Aras River, which marks the Iranian border. Lord Bon's forced exile and later death during the Stalin's Great Purge deeply affected Nima. This poem, I keep an eye on the road, out on the road for you, Toromand Cheshm Dar Raham, is an elegy to his brother. The translation was published in Port Lore. At nightfall, I keep my eyes on the road for you. When the shadows in the Talajan branches catch the color of darkness, preparing sorrow for your tired friends, I keep an eye out on the road for you. At night, in the hours when the valleys sleep like dead snakes, in the waiting after the morning glory's hands have laid their trap around the foot of the juniper trees. Whether you remember or not won't alter my memory of you. I keep an eye on the road for you. The last poem I read is called It's Night, Wacht Ast. It was written during the early days of the World War II, the Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran, which forced the exile and abdication of the power by Reza Shah to his son. This period also became a time of new possibilities, paradoxically, as the new, more dictatorial control of Reza Shah was over, and many political prisoners received general amnesty by Reza Shah's son. This translation came in Sync Review a while back. It is time for the end of the day to cry out and pour the Nile onto this page and this dynasty. Time for the flood that crushed our houses to rise up and reach for the top. to rip out this fragile footing and wash the wrongs from the land. It is time for the waters to turn this world into an ocean, for the world to bring forth fear among us, for the many tired hands to embrace, and the earth to bear another elation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Siobhan and I am the incoming poetry editor for Hayden's Fair Review, and I'm going to be introducing Joshua Nguyen. Joshua Nguyen is the author of Come Clean from the University of Wisconsin Press, winner of the Felix Pollock Prize in Poetry, the Writers League of Texas Discovery Award, and the Mississippi Institute of Arts and Letters Poetry Award. He is the author of the chapbooks American Lookbook for My Mother from Bull City Press and Hidden Labor and the Naked Body from Sundress Publications. He is a Vietnamese American writer from the National Poetry Slam Champion Cup C, and has received fellowships from Kundiman, the Kenyon Review, Tin House, Sundress Academy for the Arts, and the Vermont Studio Center. He is a humor editor for the Offing magazine and enjoys the art of drying dishes. He received his MFA and PhD from the University of Mississippi and currently teaches at Tufts University. Joshua Nguyen's poems are deeply intimate and vulnerable, reaching into the grief and isolation associated with assimilation. His poems are influenced by the mournful songs of songwriter Mitski and the poetic forms of the ghazal and duplex. As the speaker folds fresh laundry and rinses rice, they embrace obsession and routine. In these powerful poems, the domestic sphere becomes a place where safety, stability, and comfort is desperately sought after the violence of sexual trauma. In Come Clean, cleanliness is a means of processing pain and pushes against stereotypes which portray Asian men as impotent. The speaker of Nguyen's poems long to be desired and held and reclaim the body as a site of exploration. Please help me in welcoming Joshua Nguyen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. Shout out to the Mitski references. And I snuck in my love of dish drying in my bio. So thank you for reading that. It's been incredible reading. I was saying earlier, I feel like I'm like in a nocturne state because 9 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm so glad to be here. I'm gonna read just the poems from. I got my copy yesterday, so it's like brand new in my head. It's like I love how my poems look like and feel in this issue. So thank you so much for having my poems in here. I'm gonna read two, maybe three. I uh I need help in the chat. So my favorite day of the week is Tuesday, because that's actually my day off from teaching. I do all my chores, and as you can tell from the intro, I love doing chores and like doing laundry and cleaning and stuff like that. So I need two more favorite days of the week in the chat. So you can't take Tuesday. So anyone just put in the chat your favorite day of the week. And Saturday, Thursday. Got it. Enough said. Sorry. Yeah, y'all won. A lot of people said Thursday. People are going out, I guess. I'm gonna share my screen. So we do Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'm really excited. I've never read this poem aloud, and I love reading this poem because there's probably many different ways to read this poem. This is my Google Calendar for my loneliness, and this is Google Calendar for my loneliness, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Tuesday. 6:45, drink coffee. 6:45, oatmeal. 7:30, pool day. Back, bicep. 8, am I getting crushed? 9:15 a.m., shake. 45-gram protein, blueberry, creatine. 12, throw up. 1:45, 3v3 basketball with the neighborhood mice. Winner takes all, garbage and cheese. 3 o'clock, call out for nephew. 3:30, a robin. It's I. Look away. 7 p.m. 70-gram protein dinner, ground turkey. 8:30, try to sleep. 9, angrily wake up to pee. Thursday. 6:45 drink cup, 6:45 oatmeal, 7:30 push day, chest, shoulders, triceps, 7:45 do I have a crush on the gym? 9 shake, 45 grams pro blueberry, creatine. 11:30 a.m. I look into the mirror, I shed 2 tears, neither appears. 2:15 extra ab rolls for each hash brown calorie from the night before. 3:30 splay your spine on the foam roller, gasp out toward the window to the lonely robin. 6 o'clock, lesson on the writer life and the submission process as a substitute for not having enough money to go to the casino. Realize you forgot your turkey. Buy 3 sugar-filled protein shakes. 8:30, sleep on the green line. Allow the rust screech inside the tunnel to turn it an adventure in your dreams. Saturday. 6:45 drink cough, 6:45 oatmeal, 7:30 cardio course, 7:45 blame my heart everything, 9 a.m. shake, 45 grams protein, 10 post basketball, wallow at the 9 human bodies that touched you all week. Pickleball with the Chinese elders, you let believe that you're Chinese. 3 o'clock, they never invite you for poker. 4 o'clock, throw a stone into the Mystic River. 5, throw a river into you. 7, cheat meal, drumsticks. 8:30 p.m., don't wake up. 10:30 p.m., don't wake up. 11:30 p.m., don't wake up. Cool. That was interesting, right? That was a hard that's version 1 of reading that poem. So I'm excited to see how it goes in the future. This second poem is called Area of Refuge. Area of Refuge. Um, Again, I'm excited to see how I'll read this poem. Beneath the north stair, by the encase of emergency glass, shards sprinkled like C4, creatine, coke. On the bottom 3 steps, you, a sprained ankle, sprawled halfway down to light. One large Asian pear, peeled, flattened with salt. A slingshotted barn owl. Acid battery seething. From the corner of the stairwell, flames of a pipe bomb. From here, you can see the water tower through the crack of the door behind the cedar and magnolia, through the crack behind the cedar of the door and magnolia. The cedar and magnolia, the cedar, the cedar, the magnolia. See the magazines empty. This is your legend moment. Pronated forearms screaming why towards the exit. Why keep going? Why cry? Why destroy? Why push? Why bury? Why disintegrate? Why run? Why break? Why stretch? Why dig? Why crawl? Why protein? Why eat? Why punk? Why story? Why perform? Why remember? Why miracle? Why epilogue? In case why? All right. This third poem, maybe my last poem, it's another interactive poem, so I'm gonna need help in the chat again. I've been working on this series of poems for my second manuscript that incorporate, the use of the Mad Lib as a hermit crab poem. If you don't know a Mad Lib, think about childhood where you had to like put random like words and then make a story or something in those like Mad Lib type stories. Um, the speaker is thinking a lot about loneliness and thinking a lot about, what it means to try to alleviate that. And so, these Mad Lib poems are an attempt for the speaker to reach out towards the audience to try to create some sort of connection. So there are a couple of words I need help with. Again, we'll just go in the chat. I'll like write down the first things I see. The first thing I need is a nickname for a lover. Or a nickname for a partner, a nickname for someone that you adore. Hun Bun, shout out Joe. I'm gonna go with Hun Bun. Thank you. I need a state, like a US state. Oklahoma, great. Thank you. And I'll do Minnesota for the second one. Can someone give me a type of insect? Cicada. Yeah, we're about to get cicadas in Boston soon. I'm really excited. I miss them. Someone give me a type of alcohol. I'll do. All right, rum's twice. I'll do rum. Can someone give me a question that you're having? Internally, externally, question about anything. I'm gonna go with, I guess I'll go with why so hot outside. Why so hot outside? Can someone give me another word for dirt? Earth, mud, soil. I'll do soil. A couple of more. Can someone give me a type of bone? You know what's so funny? I've actually read this before. Femur is like the number one bone people love to like shout out. Everyone, yeah, everyone goes for femur. Uh, I'll do femur and I'll do ham bone. So femur, ham bone. I'm having fun. I'm having fun. Can someone give me something written? Anything written, like a type of document of some sort. All right, I'll go with note. I'll go with note. And two more. I need a random duration of time. Oh wow. I'm gonna do all right, I'll do sorry if I haven't caught, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. I'll do is a shake a duration of time? Okay, all right, I'm gonna do 37 seconds and a shake. And then last thing, I need a sharp object. These are great. They are darn. I'm gonna go darn. Actually, I'm gonna do darning needle because there might be some alliteration. All right, so I love doing this. Just because like if the speaker is seeking some connection, I love doing readings like this and doing this poem. Okay, it becomes like we do like a group poem together. It's like once in a lifetime. Like what are the odds we have like these incredible readers, HFR people, everyone like in the chat all together for like this one configuration of a night. So it's kind of like this once in a lifetime poem that we've all made together. Um, this will be my last poem. Thank you so much for having me. This is incredible. Thank you for letting me try out these like weird poems with you. Thank you to HFR for publishing these weird poems, and it's really beautiful, all the work in this issue. So, how to write your final note to your lover. Blueberry. Blink along with the Oklahoma cicada, pouring a bottle of rum for your grandfather and Faulkner in a deserted art studio in Minnesota. We talked about why so hot outside under the blinking moon. If you're reading this in soil, then my wish to be buried with all my remaining papers came true. Feel free to scavenge the remaining pages from my pockets. Rip in thirds my femur for your shelter. Tear in fourths my ham bone for your wishes. Break my body into 1,000 little pieces. Sprinkle over the tombstones, add extra for the epitaph. He wrote sad notes, but lived an even sadder life. Dramatic, I know. It took me 37 seconds and a whole shake to etch with a dull, darning needle up to the word even. So I couldn't waste all that energy etching all this forearm. I couldn't waste this waste of my body. I tried to preserve the decent of me. Use what you will, Hun Bun. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for writing that poem with me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kruger. I'm an associate editor for Hayden's Fair Review, and I'm here to introduce Danielle Frandina. Danielle Frandina is an educator and writer based in Portland, Oregon. She designs middle and high school curriculum for Facing History and Ourselves. Her short stories and essays have been published in Conceptions, Southwest, and Mountain Bluebird magazine. The nonfiction team and I really adored Daniel's piece, Cry/Baby, for its raw and meaningful exploration of the many forms of pain we experience throughout life, as well as its thoughtful, rich prose that we were all really captivated by. Without further ado, Danielle Frandina.
Thank you, Kruger. Thank you to all the editors at HFR for inviting me here tonight, and thank you to my fellow amazing readers for sharing your beautiful work. I feel honored to be among you. And lastly, thanks to all the audience members who are here tonight and sharing a precious hour of their evening with us. So I feel very grateful. I'm going to read an excerpt from the essay that Kruger just introduced. My daughter is crying too much at school, her teacher tells me. Sometimes it's loud and disruptive. Ramona's teacher wonders if she could cry more quietly, perhaps. Adjusting to elementary school has been hard on Ramona so far. We didn't see it coming. She loved her in-home preschool, loved to go, loved her friends, her teachers, the warm, open play structure where she could pursue whatever she was curious about for as long as she liked. But now she's developed anxiety around school, gets chronic stomach aches, often doesn't want to go, misses me terribly, would rather be home. Throughout the year, we have had countless email conversations with her teacher, Ms. Jacobs, about how to make school a more comfortable place for her, a place she wants to go. When I was in first grade, my beloved young pretty teacher, Ms. Brosseau, nicknamed me quite publicly Pouty. Apparently, when I was on the edge of tears, I made an expression that reminded Ms. Brosseau of a teddy bear she had as a kid who bore the same name. Although I believe she used the term playfully, even affectionately, rather than cruelly, I remember being confused by it. It wasn't helpful. I didn't want to be called pouty, especially in front of the whole class, especially when I was on the verge of tears. Ramona and I were walking home from school hand in hand when she shared that Ms. Jacobs had told her to stop crying that day. You told me it was always okay to cry, she said with confusion and perhaps a hint of betrayal. It is okay to cry, I replied firmly. I'll talk to Ms. Jacobs about it. I didn't want to be in opposition with her first elementary teacher, a person we both respected, though I felt so for the first time. I wrote a careful email making it clear that Ramona's perception of what transpired may not represent the conversation accurately. She responded that she did not tell Ramona to stop crying, but to perhaps cry more quietly because it distracted and distressed her peers in the classroom. I asked if there were quiet places Ramona could go when she needed to cry, like the bathroom. Who hasn't sought out the welcome solitude of a bathroom stall to cry in privacy? She responded that such places don't really exist at the school. The bathrooms are too echoey and would only exacerbate the problem. Ms. Jacobs then offered some advice that had been effective for her when she was a kid dealing with a really mean softball coach. Her father had told her that she needed to develop the skin of a rhinoceros, tough and impenetrable, to keep the impact of the coach's meanness from getting to her. She was coming from a place of compassion, and she's right. We all need to figure out the tricks that allow us to not fall apart from every whip and scorn that we experience in the course of our lives. But I don't know that I want to teach my daughter anything that remotely sounds like I'm asking her to toughen up. I want her to think of her sensitivity as a superpower, not a quality of weakness, as I believe my own thin skin from a young age, as I believed about my own thin skin from a young age. A week after this exchange, 19 fourth graders and their teacher in Uvalde, Texas, were slaughtered in their classrooms. Their small bodies were destroyed by an automatic rifle to the extent that officials on the scene needed to swab their waiting parents for DNA to identify the children. When my husband delivered the news, I ceased being able to function normally. I stopped working for the day, and I couldn't stop crying. That afternoon, as I walked to pick up Ramona from her aftercare program, still crying, trying to steel myself before seeing her, I ran into Ms. Jacobs walking home. She had not yet heard the news. I hesitated for a moment, not wanting to be the messenger of something so horrific, especially to an elementary school teacher. But I told her, and we suddenly found ourselves thrust into what early 20th century Jewish philosopher Martin Buber calls an I-thou experience, a unifying oneness where the boundaries between two people dissolve, and we realize we are not separate from anyone or anything, a fleeting space that retreats elusively almost as soon as we recognize we're in it. The boundaries between us dissolved in the magnitude of such suffering. After articulating the usual insufficient phrases we are limited to when trying to respond to events that are beyond our darkest and most primal fears, like the mass murder of children in their school, she asked where I was on 9/11, already imagining that this also might be a day cemented into our collective memory, a day when we would remember where we were. I told her I was in the classroom teaching my freshman class. How we all had those heavy AV carts wheeled into our classrooms to watch the towers falling over and over again. How many of the young boys in my class did not yet grasp what they were seeing, but were rather impressed by the dramatic unraveling before them, how similar it was to the action movies and video games they were accustomed to consuming. We exchanged where we were when the Littleton shooting happened, the first of its kind, at least in our collective national memory. I shared that on the first anniversary of Littleton, the school where I taught went into lockdown, a procedure that had only just been introduced to us, and I stuffed 20 teenagers into a tiny office, turned out the lights, and drew the shades, understanding for the first time what I was now being asked to do as a teacher. I told Miss Jacobs I was sorry to be the one to tell her what happened, but she thanked me, said she'd rather know now, and use the walk home to reach out to her colleagues and check in. We hugged for the first time and then continued walking in opposite directions. In the days after Uvalde, as we've come to call it, using the name of the town as shorthand to encompass the atrocity that brought the town to its knees and made it known to the rest of the country, I could not sleep. I could not behave normally. I felt like opening my front door and screaming into the streets. I reached out to family and friends and coworkers in various text and Slack threads. Very few wanted to talk about it. On social media, there were mostly reposts of clever tweets and memes about gun control and Republicans. But I wanted to know how people were feeling. Where was the communal wailing? I thought enviously of the collective grieving rituals in other cultures, death keening, ululation, Shiva. Some friends responded that they were numb. Many went into self-preservation mode, rhinoceros skin. It was too much after everything else that had happened in the last 6 years. They turned away from the stories that profiled the children and educators who died, the terrible details of what those who survived endured, and a final blow, the discovery that police incompetence resulted in more loss of life. I did not turn away, though I have turned away from graphic details of human horror before the Uvalde shooting and since. My friend, who has endured 6 miscarriages in the last 2 years, one a late-stage pregnancy loss, reminded me that outsiders knowing the details of these families' pain and suffering won't alleviate any of it for them. And she's right. But if a parent blown apart by grief needs to tell the world about their child gunned down an hour after she kissed the top of his head at an end-of-year award ceremony, don't we have to reach out into the unfathomable darkness and bear witness, listen, break a little with her? I don't want them to be alone in their devastation, and yet they probably are. Stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all such incredible readings. Thank you so much to all of our readers and our editors and everyone that is here with us. And yeah, thank you very much, dear audience, for being here with us. And in case you do want to revisit all these incredible readings and, download them once more, just bask in them, a recording of this event will be up on the HFR site soon. And you can also check out the web preview for the issue 76 on the HFR site, and you can also purchase a copy of the print issue as well. And for the first time, a digital PDF of the issue is available too for accessibility. You will also receive a brief survey to offer feedback on this experience. Thank you in advance for filling it out and letting us know how we did, how this touched you, anything you'd like to share with us. Finally, please do stay in touch with HFR by signing up for our newsletter. You can hear about more events coming up soon, and that should be thrown in the chat. And yeah, thank you again to everyone. These are incredible readings. And yeah, just very glad to be here with all of you tonight. And I hope you all have a very good evening. Thank you.